Humans rely on care. We are born barely able to move and completely unable to feed ourselves or avoid predators. Until we develop these abilities, we're completely dependent on other humans to care for us. In contrast, many animals require no care at all, hatching from unguarded eggs and immediately having to fend for themselves. Other species lie somewhere in between. This video covers why these differences exist and the evolutionary trade-offs around parental care. Care refers to any activity by a parent that enhances the survival of its offspring. The types of care and amount delivered vary widely across species. Care includes behavior such as incubating eggs, feeding, protection from predators, and transporting offspring from place to place. Parents can also teach offspring foraging or other skills. Some species provide no care at all, simply producing large number of eggs to offset the small likelihood any individual offspring has of surviving. Some species provide little care to mobile offspring, but will invest in concealing their eggs or protecting them from predators. And for other species, parental care lasts for months, or even years, and involves feeding, defense, teaching, and other modes of support. If parental care boosts offspring survival and hence fitness, why don't all species provide as much care for their offspring as possible? One reason is trade-offs between parental care and an animal's own growth and survival. Animals have a finite amount of energy or effort they can expend on reproduction, so allocating it to caring for offspring will also lead to producing fewer offspring overall. This is true both within and between breeding attempts. More care now may mean you have fewer resources for future offspring. As a result, animals must position themselves somewhere on the continuum between producing many offspring and giving them no care, and producing a few that are cared for extensively. We can see this trade-off in action when we look at fish, which exhibit a huge variety of parental care strategies. Researchers found that species with greater levels of parental care had larger eggs, supporting the idea they were investing more overall in each individual offspring. Which strategy works best for a particular species depends greatly on the ecological context. If foraging is easy and predation rates are low, juveniles may succeed without much help. Conversely, if care can protect vulnerable juveniles effectively, and developing foraging skills is difficult, then juveniles receiving care will be far more successful than those that don't. This is balanced against the relative costs of care to parents. In many species, the behavioral changes in animals that allow them to carry out parental care are regulated by hormones. One important hormone is prolactin, which increases care behavior in both birds and mammals. In experiments on rats, researchers found that those treated with prolactin were far more likely to touch, carry, and huddle over pups than control rats. Similarly, egg laying in birds is associated with release of prolactin, suggesting a role in incubation behavior. Care from only one parent is a common strategy, but in many species, particularly birds, 2 or more adults contribute to care. Care involving multiple individuals is interesting from an evolutionary perspective, as it usually involves collaboration between unrelated individuals. Parents have a shared benefit to care, their reproductive success, but personal costs, meaning they will always prefer their partner to take on a greater share of the costs of care. This sexual conflict is why we see differences in care between parents, even when both contribute. Under what circumstances do parents have different costs and benefits of care? The most obvious is when paternity is not certain. Females will often be sure that they are receiving the full benefit from offspring, but for males, their reproductive success depends on whether the female also mated with other males. Consequently, if males are less sure of paternity, they should invest less in offspring care. One example of this in action comes from blue-footed boobies, monogamous seabirds that live in colonies in the Pacific. Both sexes invest extensively in parental care, which takes around 6 months from incubation to the end of chick feeding. Females copulate extensively with their mate while they're fertile, but may also copulate with others if he's not present. Researchers removed males for 11 hours during the female fertile periods, with control males being removed during non-fertile periods. When the females laid their eggs, 7 of the 16 males removed during the fertile period ejected the first egg from the nest. In contrast, none of the 17 control males removed any eggs. It seems that males were unwilling to take on the cost of care when they were less sure the chick was theirs. A few species use a clever strategy to remove their cost of care entirely. They make other individuals do the work for them. Females that lay their eggs in the nests of other species are known as interspecific brood parasites. Because hosts will reject any eggs that are recognized as belonging to another individual, the eggs of brood parasites will often closely mimic those of their host in size, color, and pattern. Brood parasite chicks will also be highly adapted for competitive ability, such as common cuckoo chicks that hatch quickly and then eject remaining eggs from the nest. Likewise, hosts are selected for better discrimination and to guard their nests during incubation. The important thing to remember when considering the evolution of care strategies is to remember that each individual is acting in its own interest. This includes individual parents and individual offspring, who will all disagree on the precise amount of care each should receive. Have a think about an animal you're familiar with that exhibits care. Who cares? What do they do? What don't they do? And how do their offspring benefit?